بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. So today is the second lesson on the explanation of the hadith of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiyallahu anhu, من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين. To whomsoever Allah intends to show goodness, then He gives him understanding of the religion. And this is a commentary by Shaykh Ubayd Al Jaabiri hafidhahullah ta'ala. And in the first lesson, the previous lesson, we looked at the narrator of the hadith, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu, one of the greatest companions. We gave some biographical details about this companion and his virtues and his excellence, and how he was the first of the kings of Islam, in whose rule there was mercy, and some of his achievements, such as the first sea expedition when he went to Cyprus, and many other virtues. It's important for us to understand that when we have particular important hadith, that we know the narrators, the companions who related those hadith. So the Shaykh mentioned that complete happiness, perfect happiness, lies in only one thing. There's only one route and one path in the life of this world, and that is having fiqh, having comprehension of the religion, understanding the religion, and then acting upon it. And this is something that is necessary for people who want to call to Allah, who want to call others to the truth, to do so on the basis of sound comprehension of the religion and following a certain methodology. Allah said, the Messenger said, upon the way that the Salaf, the righteous companions and those after them, the way that they understood. Likewise, the Shaykh explained the importance of taking knowledge gradually, step by step, moving from one text to another text, gaining understanding and then moving, and then continuing like this in a cycle, so that over time you are developing more and more understanding, becoming more and more grounded in the religion. So these were some of the major points that we looked at in the previous lesson. Also, the Shaykh explained that the people, as it relates to this hadith, are of two groups. Right? You either fall into one or the other. You are either someone who has been given understanding and knowledge and fiqh, comprehension in the religion, such that you know the difference between guidance and misguidance, sunnah and bid'ah, truth and falsehood. Right? So these are all opposites which exist in Allah's creation. Right? There is tawheed and its opposite, which is shirk. There is iman and its opposite, which is kufr. There is sunnah and its opposite, which is bid'ah in the religion. There is obedience to Allah, righteousness, and there is sinfulness and disobedience. Right? These are all opposites in the creation, and in fact, this meaning is actually mentioned by some of the mufassirun, such as At-Tabari and others, when they mention the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ. Of every single thing we have created pairs. of every single thing, we have created pairs. And so the Mufassirun explained that this includes, for example, Iman and Kufr. That's a pair. Heaven and earth is a pair. Day and night is a pair. Right? So everything in creation is in pairs. And this can be conceptual as a meaning. So it's not something physical, conceptual. For example, Iman and Kufr, right? They are meanings. Or it can be physical, like we've seen. It can be hot and cold. It can be, like we said, the heaven and the earth, the men and the jinn is another pair. Right? So everything is created in terms of pairs. So you have the halal and the haram, the prohibited, the obligated. So when you gain fiqh in the religion, when you gain understanding in the religion, you are able to make distinctions between all of these things. Right? Between that which rectifies and that which corrupts. Between that which is beneficial, that which is harmful. So the religion, understanding of the religion, is something that allows you as a believer in everything to know this is tawheed, this is shirk, or this is mani shirk, this is iman, or this statement is kufr, or this deed is kufr, right? This is halal, this is haram, this is tayyib, this is khabith, this behavior is honorable, this behavior is dishonorable. Right? All of these things, the deen and fiqh in the deen allows you to make all of these distinctions. And as for the ignorant people, as the Shaykh says, these, as the Shaykh says, that these umur which are mutanaqida, which are opposing but contradictory affairs, they are confusing upon the ignorant people. Right? The ignorant people, the ones who do not gain fiqh in the religion, they are unable to make these distinctions. So, the first party or the first group are the ones who are given basira by Allah Azza wa Jal. They gain comprehension in the religion, and then they act upon the religion with sincerity, ikhlas, and they make mutaba'ah, they follow the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah in their acts of worship. The second party, the second group, is the opposite of what is stated in the hadith. The hadith states textually, to whomever Allah intends goodness, He will give him understanding of the religion. But the opposite is something that is understood. The opposite meaning is understood, not stated. Right? And the opposite meaning is, to whomsoever Allah does not intend to show goodness, He will not give him understanding of the religion. So this is where we finished in the previous lesson. So today we are going to complete the rest of the commentary upon this hadith. And so the second issue that the Shaykh discusses then is, he asks, okay, we've spoken about fiqh in the religion, but what are the abwab? What are the various topics or subject areas that pertain to the entire religion? And so he says, لِيَعْلَمَ كل مسلم ومسلمة أن الفقه في الدين له ثلاثة أبواب وإن شئت فقل ثلاثة طرق. Let every Muslim, male and female Muslim, know that fiqh, comprehension in religion, has three subject areas. Or if you like, three paths or three routes. Then he explains each of these three. So in other words, everything that a person needs to gain understanding of in his religion, it will fall into one of three categories. Everything. Right? So the first one, al-awwal, fiqhul i'tiqad. Fiqhul i'tiqad, which is gaining comprehension in the belief. In the belief that we ought to hold as believers, as Muslims. So obviously this covers many aspects of belief. Belief in Allah, belief in the angels, belief in His books, belief in the messengers, belief in Al-Qadr, the good and the bad of it, and belief in the last day, and just in general belief in the unseen, the affairs of the unseen, right? Like paradise, hellfire, the jinn, signs of the hour, and many things, barzakh, what, all of these things that we have belief in them, but we believe in them upon the right way, because as you know, there are many groups and parties, many sects which appeared in the Muslim nation, and they deviated in many different aspects of creed. So the first thing that we must establish as a foundation is comprehension of the sound creed. Sound creed. So the Shaykh says, its essence, وَخُلَاصَتُهُ, the essence of it, the foundation of it is اعتقاد المرء بأن الله سبحانه وتعالى واحد لا شريك له في ربوبيته وأنه واحد لا شريك له في عبادته وأنه واحد لا شريك له في أسمائه وصفاته. So the first thing is that he mentions obviously the foundation of Tawheed, and so he says that the belief of a man that Allah is one. Allah is one. He has no partner in his rububiyyah, in his lordship. That means that he alone is the creator and the owner and the regulator. He doesn't have anyone to share with him or to assist him or to aid him in any way. That he alone is in complete control, dominion, ownership, regulation of everything which happens in his creation. Right? The angels don't help him, but the angels execute and do what they are commanded to do by Allah's command. Right? They are not helping Allah to run His creation. Right? So no one is an aider or a supporter for Allah Azza wa Jal. He alone has complete power and dominion over every single thing. Right? This is one aspect of Tawheed. The second aspect of Tawheed is that there is none which is a partner to Him in His worship. So we single out Allah in worship, right? To have knowledge of that, and to have knowledge of the evidences for that, right? As what is found in the Quran, right? Evidences for Allah's rububiyyah, evidences for Allah being worthy of worship alone. What are the evidences? And this is what the Quran outlines and explains to us when it gives evidences and parables and refutes the mushrikeen, refutes the idol worshippers, right? So by reflecting upon all of that, we gain comprehension in this matter. And similarly, that He is one, not having any partners in His names and His attributes. So He is unique in His names and His attributes. The meanings are the most perfect of meanings, they are the most beautiful of names and the most perfect of attributes. There's no deficiency in His attributes or in the meanings. So all of this is Tawheed, as the Shaykh says, but Tawheed huwa ra'su deen al-Islam. Tawheed is the chief part of Islam, which, no prophet was sent and no messenger except he came with this. He began with this, right? This is the Tawheed. So when we say La ilaha illallah, this is what is meant, what we've just explained. That He is the Lord and the Creator, without any helpers, without any aiders, the owner of everything, the regulator of everything. He controls life and death, benefit and harm, and everything. So therefore, He alone is worthy of worship. It follows, very, very simple. And this is the meaning of the kalima. And so we have to understand this and know also at the same time all of the various other false meanings of the kalima, the false interpretations of La ilaha illallah, which come from various people, misguided people, So the Shaykh mentions the verse, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنَا فَاعْبُدُونِ. We did not send before you any messenger, except that we inspired to him to say that none has the right to be worshipped except I, so worship me alone. Right? So the religion of Allah, the deen of Allah, which the messengers came and the prophets came from Nuh alayhi salam to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who is the seal and the last of them, it is the deen of Islam. The deen of Islam. And then the Shaykh goes on to explain the falsehood or the futility of a particular statement. He says, وَبِهَذَا يُعْلَمْ أَنَّ مَقُولَةَ الدِّيَانَاتِ السَّمَاوِيَّةِ الثَّلَاثِ وهي الإسلام واليهودية والنصرانية ديانات سماوية كذب على الله وعلى رسوله وعلى أئمة العلم والدين والإيمان. He says, from this we should know and understand that the statement that is made when people say, for example, the three divinely or the three heavenly religions, the three heavenly religions, Judaism, Christianity and Islam, right? That they are heavenly religions. This statement is a lie upon Allah, it is a lie upon the messenger, and it is a lie upon the scholars or the people of knowledge and religion and Iman. The Shaykh says how he has explained this in more detail in another one of his lectures or writings. But what the Shaykh is explaining here is that we can expand upon this by explaining that when we look at the meaning of different words, right? So in Arabic, we have the word ad-din, we have the word al-millah, and we have the word al-nihla. Al-nihla. If we understand the meaning of these three words, the issue will become clear to us. So the word ad-din, when you go and look linguistically what is the meaning of ad-din in the various Arabic dictionaries, you find that it means at-ta'a, obedience, inqiyad, right? Compliance, obedience. This is the meaning of deen. So upon this, really, there is only one deen. That deen is compliance and obedience, meaning upon Islam. Right? And that is why when we use the word ad-din, absolutely, there is only one deen. There is no two deens or three deens or four deens. There is only one deen of truth. And its meaning is very clear and apparent. It is at-ta'a wal-inqiyad. Obedience and compliance. That can only be for Allah Azza wa Jalla. And this is the essence of the deen of Islam. Inna ad-din inda Allah al-Islam. Verily the religion with Allah is Islam. So this is the meaning of the word ad-din. Al-millah has the meaning of at-tariqa. At-tariqa, which is, a way or a path or a sunnah, like a way or a path that is followed. And in the Quran, when you read the various verses of the Quran, you'll see that the word millah is ascribed like the millata Ibrahim, the millah of Ibrahim, the millata abikum, the millah of your father, and it's also ascribed to the people of disbelief as well, right? To the people of disbelief as well, right? So here, this is basically anything which is like taken as a tariqa, a sunnah, a way, a path, like a sharia, like a way or a path, what has been legislated, what has been devised, and this can be a millah of truth, in which case it is deen, or it can be a millah which is, from the people themselves. And so this leads us to the third word, which is an-nihla. An-nihla. An-nihla means that which has no basis in revelation. It is from the fabrications, inventions of mankind. This is all of the false religions, like folk religions and inventions and false beliefs, false ideas, right? And everything invented by man. So we refer to that as a nihla. Now, obviously, in English, we only have one word. We have religion. So we say the religion of Islam, the religion of Hinduism, the religion of Christianity. But really, in the Arabic language, there is only one deen. In the Quran, there is only one deen, and it is Islam. And all of these other, things that we find, they are basically milal and they are nihal. And some of the scholars of the past, they wrote books with this title, Al-Milal wal-Nihal. Right? Al-Fasl fil Milal wal-Nihal. Some of the scholars of the past, they wrote books in which they brought together all the various religions and sects and denominations and described them. But deen, there is only the deen of Islam. And what is besides it is a millah. If it is false, a millah, if it is true, then it is synonymous with deen, right? So deen and millah can be one and the same. If it's the true millah, right, which is the millah of Ibrahim and whoever followed him. And other than that, it is either a millah, which is from the devised by men, or it is a nihla, from the fabrications and false religions and false ideas. So once this is clear, this is the first area in which you have to gain fiqh, right? About the correct and the sound belief. The second area of religion in which a person must have fiqh and basira, insight, is fiqh al-ibadat al-amaliyya. Fiqh al-ibadat al-amaliyya, which is understanding of the practical affairs of worship. Practical affairs of worship. Such as min salatin wa siyamin wa zakatin wa hajjin wa ghayri dhalika mimma yata'abbad lillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فالعبادات العملية يجب فيها إلى جانب إخلاص العبد لربه فيها أن يضم إلى ذلك متابعة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهذا يستدعي العلم. So the Shaykh basically says the fiqh comprehension of the practical aspects of worship, such as those things which are obligations upon everybody, prayer, fasting, zakat, hajj, and other such things, which, by which Allah is worshipped. And, in these acts of worship, a person must have the ikhlas, sincerity to Allah, and also follow the sunnah of the guidance, imitate the Prophet ﷺ in all of that, and this can only be through knowledge. This requires knowledge. So these things now are obviously the individual obligations, right? So there are some things which everybody needs to have that knowledge. So for example, the rules of at-tahara, purification, right? Purification of the body, purification of the clothes, purification as a condition for worship. When are you pure, when are you impure? Likewise for women, specifically for women related to menses, and likewise the issue of ghusl and things like that, right? Because the purification is a key to other obligations, to the prayer. And likewise the prayer itself, all of the ahkam to do with the prayer, and likewise the obligations of fasting. These are things which apply to everybody who has reached bulugh. So you cannot be excused for ignorance in these affairs. The Shaykh goes on to say that these acts of worship, فَإِنَّ فِقْهَ الْعِبَادَاتِ الْعَمَلِيَّةِ لَا بُدَّ لَهُ مِنْ عِلْمٍ وَيُؤْخَذُ عَنْ أَهْلِهِ فَيَتَأَلَّمَ الْمَرْءُ مَا يَجِبُ عَلَيْهِ كَيْفَ يَعْبُدُ رَبَّهُ وَهَذَا بَابٌ وَاسِعٌ. So these practical acts of worship, they must be based upon knowledge. They have to be based upon knowledge. And we are not like we said before, the religion of Islam is one of knowledge and action. Right? It is not like we don't follow the traits of the Yahud, which is knowledge without action, and nor the traits of the Christians, of the Nasara, which is action without knowledge. Right? And so it must be founded upon ilm, and knowledge is taken from its people. And so each man has to learn what is obligatory upon him. How does he worship his Lord? And so this obviously is in itself a big topic in itself. And so this is the second category. This means everyone who reaches, like we said, the age of bulugh, we ought to teach our children the things which are obligatory upon them, such as purification and prayer, and get them accustomed to these things so that they have comprehension from an early age. The third area in which you must acquire understanding is the fiqh al-mu'amalat al-jariyya bayn al-nas. This now is understanding the various dealings and interactions that take place between the people. So he says, فَالْمُعَامَلَاتِ مِنْ بَيْءٍ وَشَرَاءٍ وَإِجَارَةٍ الْأَصْلُ فِيهَا الْإِبَاحَةِ. So these are things like, buying and selling and renting, everything which is like a worldly transaction, leasing, renting, employing someone, all things which involve like contracts, loans, repayments of loans, issues to do with land and leasing land and produce, and everything now which is an interaction where you interact with other people for the purposes of benefit, mutual benefit and things like that, then a person must have comprehension in these affairs. Now obviously these affairs are on a need-to-know basis. Not everybody is obligated to have this particular knowledge, right? It only becomes obligatory if you enter into such affairs. So if you enter into a business or trade or whatever it might be, then obviously you must have knowledge of what you are doing, Islamically speaking. Right? Is this halal? Is it haram? Is this contract valid? Is this contract void? Right? So all of your interactions and dealings with other people are based upon the truth and are beneficial and not harmful and are lawful and wholesome and contain blessing. Right? So this knowledge now, it's like I said, the second type of ilm, the first and second type of fiqh is obligatory. Fiqh al-i'tiqad and fiqh al-ibadat. Right? And this type of knowledge here, not everybody has to know it, but the scholars, the people of knowledge, they learn this ilm because it is fardu kifaya, it is like a collective obligation. Some from the Muslim nation must always have this knowledge and convey this knowledge and transmit this knowledge, but it's not an obligation upon every single individual. Right? So this is why, alhamdulillah, it is easy for the people of Islam. And for the average common Muslim, when he needs to know something, he goes and asks an alim. Right? He asks a trustworthy alim, and he asks him for guidance in these affairs. That I plan to get married, what is upon me? I plan to rent the land, what is upon me? I plan to do this, what is upon me? So he goes and he acquires ilm, and he proceeds upon that ilm. So he gains understanding of the affairs that he is going to enter into. It's not a condition now that he has to carry this knowledge with him all the time and be a scholar and be an alim and in all of no, because not everybody has that capability. So the principle then is that in the worldly affairs, in all worldly affairs, the general principle is that everything is permissible based upon certain verses of the Quran that the Shaykh mentions here. From them, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. He is the one who created for you what is on the earth, all of it. Right? And likewise, هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ الْأَرْضَ ظَلُولًا فَامْشُوا فِي مَنَاكِبِهَا وَكُلُوا مِنْ رِزْقِهِ وَإِلَيْهِ النُّشُورُ. He is the one who made for you the earth. He laid down and subjected the earth for you. So traverse upon the various regions of the earth and eat from its provision, and to him shall be the resurrection. So here the Shaykh mentions a principle, which is that halal is what Allah has made halal and what His Messenger made halal, and the haram is what Allah made haram and His Messenger made haram. Right? It is only for Allah and His Messenger to explain what is halal and haram. And as for the actual dealings, our dealings amongst people, the worldly dealings, then as the Shaykh says, Al-asl fil mu'amalat al-ibaha. The basic principle in the dealings is that everything is permissible. Everything is permissible. And then the Shaykh mentions a principle, وَلِهَذَا قَالَ عُلَمَاؤُنَا. Our scholars have said, الأصل في العبادات الحظر يعني المنع إلا بنص والأصل في المعاملات الإباحة إلا بنص. So the Shaykh explains a principle which is well known and established and the scholars speak with, which is that when it comes to acts of worship, you want to worship Allah with a deed, with a statement, right? Everything is prohibited. Right? So the basis, the origin that we start off from is that everything's prohibited except what Allah has revealed and legislated. Right? So you don't start with the assumption that I can worship Allah how I want, I can worship with whatever I please, and I can do the acts of worship in whichever way, form I want. No, you don't start like that. You start by assuming that every act of worship is prohibited, is not permissible until it is specifically legislated. Right? Then you find out what is specifically legislated. Right? We're not like the Christians or other people who basically worship Allah however they want, in whatever way they want. Right? So this is as it relates to worshipping Allah, because Allah created us to worship Him. Then He sent books and He sent messengers to give us instruction therein. We can't arrive at that knowledge with the reason, with aql. Nor can we arrive at that knowledge with just emotion and feeling. Right? In my heart there is love, tremendous love for God and for whatever. And then you decide that you're going to now, sing a ballad, or bring out your tambourine, or do something and sing, and think this is worship of Allah. You can't do that. Right? Or sit in circles and switch off the light and then do breathing. And you can't do that. You worship Allah the way that He legislated through His messenger. So the basic principle in worship is that you assume everything is prohibited and not allowed up until there is a text. There's a specific text that describes that act of worship and gives the details. However, with mu'amalat, which are the worldly dealings between the people, you assume that everything is permissible. So this includes like food and drink and clothing and various types of trade, trading and renting, leasing, marriage, inheritance, and all the rest of it. Like obviously these dealings are permissible. You assume them to be permitted unless there is a text that specifically makes them unlawful or makes them prohibited. So after mentioning this principle, this is basically the end of the commentary of the Shaykh. The Shaykh finishes by saying, وَبِاللَّهِ التَّوْفِيقِ, with Allah lies success, وَصَلَّى اللَّهُ وَسَلَّمَ عَلَى نَبِينَ مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى آلِهِ وَصَحْبِهِ أَجْمَعِينَ. So he concludes his brief commentary upon the hadith there. So we'll conclude the rest of this lesson by bringing some other points, because the hadith continues. The full hadith, as we mentioned in the previous lesson, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. This is the first part, the commonly known part. To whomsoever Allah intends to show goodness, He gives him understanding of the religion. And then he continues, وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسٍ وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسٍ وَاللَّهُ يُعْطِي. Indeed, I am the one who distributes, and Allah is the one who gives. وَلَن تَزَالَ هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ قَائِمَةً عَلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ لَا يُضُرُّهُمْ مَنْ خَالَفَهُمْ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ. This nation, this ummah will never cease to be established upon the affair of Allah, the command of Allah. Those who oppose them will not harm them until the affair of Allah arrives. So, on the whole hadith, there are some other points that can be mentioned. First of all, there's a statement from Muhammad bin Ka'ab al-Quradhi, rahimahullah, which is kind of related to this hadith. I'll mention the narration here. And so he says, as is mentioned by Ibn al-Mubarak, rahimahullah, in the book Az-Zuhud, Kitab al-Zuhud. So, Muhammad bin Ka'ab, he said, إِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِعَبْدٍ خَيْرًا جَعَلَ فِيهِ ثَلَاث خِصَالٍ. When Allah intends to show goodness to a servant, He puts three qualities in him. There are three traits He places in him. فِقْهًا فِي الدِّينِ. فِقْهًا فِي الدِّينِ. The first one is comprehension in the religion. Comprehension in the religion. And obviously this is based upon the hadith of the Messenger of Allah. Then he said, وَزَهَادَةً فِي الدُّنْيَا. وَزَهَادَةً فِي الدُّنْيَا. Which is that he only takes from the world what he needs. To only take from the world what you need, right? This is the correct meaning of zuhud. Zuhud. Zuhud does not mean to abandon the world, like basically as is claimed by some of the people who are people of tasawwuf or people like that you just totally abandon the world, you have nothing to do with it, you abandon everything. No. Zuhud in its proper meaning is that you take from the world that which is sufficient for you. It doesn't mean completely abandon the world now live in poverty and live in, it means take from it what you need and then devote yourself to religion, to ibadah, to worship, to istighfar, right? Take from the world what you need. So the second trait is وَزَهَادَةً فِي الدُّنْيَا. The third one, وَبَصَرًا بِعُيُوبِهِ. To have insight into his own flaws and his own mistakes, like his flaws in his character, his being, which he can attend to. Right? So if you have these three traits or these three qualities, this is a sign that Allah is intending goodness for you. Right? You have comprehension in the religion. You only take from the world what you need from it. Right? You're not engrossed and preoccupied in the world, chasing riches, chasing this, chasing that. But you take from it what is sufficient for you and your family, right? And and then you attend, you spend your time wisely thereafter in worship. And thirdly, having knowledge of your own flaws and mistakes. So this is similar, to the hadith of Muawiyah from one of the, Imams of the Salaf, Muhammad bin Ka'ab al-Quradhi, rahimahullah ta'ala. And in general, we could just finish by making 6 or 7 points about the hadith in general, including the second half of the hadith. So the first point, obviously, that we've already discussed from Shaykh Ubayd, is that this hadith contains the excellence of fiqh in the religion, the virtue and the excellence of fiqh, the fadl, the excellence of comprehension in religion. It is clearly a sign that Allah intends goodness to you, and it's the purpose for which we have been created. Right? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create jinn and men except that they may worship me. And we've also been commanded with ibadah. يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اُعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ. O mankind, worship your Lord. This cannot be achieved. We cannot actualize this, nor can we follow the commands and keep the prohibitions, except with fiqh in the religion. Right? So this includes obviously the affairs that were mentioned by Shaykh Ubayd, the 3 abwab belief, worship and dealings. Belief, worship and dealings. That comprises all of the religion. Second point is the foundation of this fiqh, as we've already seen, is Tawheed. It has to be based upon Tawheed. It has to emanate upon Tawheed. If you do not build your religion upon sound creed and sound knowledge, this will also affect the other areas, whether you like it or not. Right? At some point in the future, it will affect the other areas. And just to give you like more of an extreme example, this is like an extreme example. There were some people who claimed that the meaning of La ilaha illallah means that there is no existence except that of Allah. Which means nothing exists except Allah Himself. Right? So there is no creator and there is no created. There is only Allah. Allah is everything. And the only thing which exists is Allah. Right. So this is now is a heretical creed. It is disbelief. Right? But there are people who actually believe this is the meaning of the kalima La ilaha illallah. Now upon this, if we can't tell the difference between the creator and the created, and everything everything that exists is basically Allah, then how do we distinguish between what is tayyib and khabith, like pure and wholesome? And like, how do we distinguish? And where does the notion of the halal and haram come from? And so when you worship, who are you worshipping? Like, who is the worshipper and who is the worshipped? All of these disappear. All of these go. Right? And so therefore now there is no sharia. There is no halal. There is no haram. Right? You can therefore marry someone who is a mahram. And so everything basically goes and disappears. There's no worship, there's no ibadah, there's no mu'amalat, there's no fiqh of the ahkam. It's all gone. So this is obviously, I'm giving like a very extreme example of how a mistaken belief, in this case a very extreme mistake, can lead to the abolition of religion. But it can also apply in other ways as well. For example, Greek logic was entered into fiqh, jurisprudence, and this corrupted many elements of jurisprudence. Through the use of logic, because some of the people of Kalam, Ahlul Kalam, like Al-Ghazali and people like that, they spoke of the necessity of knowing, logic and philosophy or whatever, to use it as a tool in fiqh. And they made mistakes in this, and it led to mistake. So the point being that Tawheed as the foundation, the sound creed, the sound belief is very, very important because it affects everything else. And that's the foundation of fiqh in the religion. Also, a person must obviously be free of shirk, because shirk is something that nullifies the deeds, as the Messenger of Allah, as Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, addressing the Messenger himself, وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ وَلَتَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. That we have, it has been inspired to you and to those who came before you, that if you commit shirk, then your deeds will be vain and you will be from the losers. Right? So, obviously this is very, very important, that Tawheed must be the foundation. Other issues like fiqh, of the ahkam and the ibadat, the mu'amalat, they can also be affected if the underlying belief is not sound. The third thing that this hadith contains, obviously this hadith is an encouragement, it is targheeb, it is enticement and encouragement for us to strive and make efforts in acquiring knowledge of the sharia, knowledge of the religion, and this is something that you are not born with knowledge. You don't come out of your mother's womb as a scholar. Nobody does. And for that reason, knowledge is acquired by as the Messenger said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. And he also said, إِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمِ, which means through actual practice, through actual exertion, right? So for example, if you are not someone who is patient and forbearing, how do you acquire it? إِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمِ. Right? You become gentle and forbearing and patient. How? By exercising it, by implementing it. Right? By adopting and manifesting this quality, and over time it then becomes part and parcel of you. So in the same way, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. Verily knowledge is by learning, right? By spending time, by dedication, by taking all the routes and means. It doesn't just come to you like what is claimed by some of the people that they gush, sudden enlightenment. You sat there and maybe sat in a dark room or something, and you're doing dhikr thousands of times, and all of a sudden, like a lightning strike, this sudden illumination. Gush. There's no such thing in Islam. This is from the innovation and misguidance of the people of misguidance, right? إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ. Knowledge is by learning and by dedication and taking it from its roots. It comes with striving, with effort, like with memorization and fiqh, right? Memorization and fiqh. And this is how it is. So basically it means that this hadith is an encouragement for us to expend the effort. And from the effort is traveling. You're traveling for the sake of knowledge, as the great scholars used to do in the early times of Islam, riding on the donkeys, walking on the feet, traveling thousands of miles, all across the Muslim world just to acquire one hadith, or to sit with one scholar to make a verification. This is how they used to do. For us, it's very, very easy. We have the internet, we have phones. How can you be excused for being ignorant in the 20th and 21st century? You can't. You can't be excused for being ignorant, because knowledge is literally in your palm, so to speak, right? So that means that Allah has made it easy for us. It's a mercy from Allah. We don't have to travel, with on bare feet, or with sandals with the straps broken, on scorching hot rocks, with maybe just some water, and that's it. We don't have to. Allah has given us tremendous blessings. So really, a person cannot really be excused for being ignorant of his religion. The fourth thing that we take from this is this knowledge and this fiqh is not really of benefit to you unless it's acted upon. So really, the meaning of the hadith isn't to whomsoever Allah intends goodness, He allows him to memorize the Quran or Bukhari or Muslim, and know all the masail, and it's not about knowledge, it's about action, right? Comprehension. When you comprehend, action is part and parcel of that. That's to whom Allah intends to show goodness. Goodness is in the amal, not the ilm. And so, unless obviously you act upon that, if you belittle the affairs and you enter into unlawful things, but in this case, the fiqh that you've gained really is a proof against you. It's not good for you, it's actually evil upon you. Right? And so as the Prophet said, he said, وَالْقُرْآنُ حُجَّةٌ لَكَ أَوْ عَلَيْكَ. The Qur'an is either a proof in your favor or it is against you, as is related by Imam Muslim. The point number 5 is that this hadith mentions that the Messenger of Allah is the distributor and Allah is the giver. This establishes the true relationship of the messengers. The messengers are conveyors. They are intermediaries, but they are intermediaries of conveyance of revelation. They convey revelation, right? They are not intermediaries whom we worship Allah through. No. This is like the way of the Christians and other nations, right? And likewise the misguided Sufis who believe that the saints and the messengers, we have to be subservient to them and ask from them and give them devotion, and through them our needs are then raised to Allah. This type of intermediation, right? All of this is false. This is not from the religion of Islam. Right? It clashes with Tawheed. The messengers are distributors of the revelation that Allah revealed to them. Right? They are men, righteous men, truthful men. They convey revelation. They are infallible. They do not make mistakes in conveying the revelation. Right? And so they are intermediaries of information and knowledge of revelation. So, وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسِمٌ وَاللَّهُ يُعْطِي. I am the distributor and Allah is the giver. Allah is the one who gives, right? So Allah reveals His knowledge, the Quran, His speech, and all of the understanding of the religion, the rules, and so on and so forth. And then also point number 6 is that we see that in this hadith, towards the end of the hadith, is glad tidings that there will always be a party or a group that holds fast to the Quran and to the Sunnah, which is devoid of deviation and misguidance and innovations and newly invented affairs. And despite the fact that there will be many, many groups and parties and sects present, there will always be people who will be upon the truth. Sometimes those people might be together in a certain location. Other times they might be separated in different locations, right? It doesn't mean that they have to all be in one place or one location. This varies. This can vary. The situation can vary from time to time, place to place. But there will always be people upon the truth who are holding fast to the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we know that this will always remain. We also know in another hadith, with a similar wording, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي ظاهرين على الحق لا يضرهم من خذلهم ولا من خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله. There will never cease to be a party or a group from my nation manifestly upon the truth. They will not be harmed by those who oppose them and those who abandon them, who desert them, until the affair of Allah arrives. And so this here is, the aided group, and there are other hadiths which are also mentioned, the saved group and Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and different names. They are all synonymous. They carry the same meaning. That there will always be people upon the truth, upon the religion, as the Messenger of Allah, as he brought it, and they will not be harmed by those who oppose them or desert them. In the presence of great deviation, misguidance, splitting, separation, many sects, many parties, many groups, all, saying what they are saying. There will always be the truth, it will always be available. This is unlike the religion of the Yahud and the Nasara, because they don't have the means anymore to go back to find out what was the authentic religion of Musa alayhi salam, what was the authentic religion of Isa alayhi salam. They don't have that anymore because that's corrupted. But with Islam, there is the Quran, and there is the Sunnah, and there is the way and the understanding of the righteous Salaf. Right? And that is the criterion. Also, from the points from this hadith is that upon a student of knowledge, obviously this last part of the hadith indicates to us that we have to be careful and to be aware of the various groups and sects which oppose the Sunnah, whether in the past, right, like the Khawarij and the Murji'ah and the Qadariyah and the Rafida and Jahmiyyah and other, many other groups and sects, or whether they are contemporary in the present time, right? And all the groups in the present time are simply offshoots of the early groups, right? Whether it's the Khawarij like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, whether it's the rationalists and the modernists, right? The Aqlaniyun, they are simply offshoots of the Mu'tazila, right? Or whether you have the various extreme groups of the Sufiya, right? They've inherited from those people who came before them. So we have to be careful of them and ensure that we teach the people the right guidance, and to protect those people from the shubuhat, from the misconceptions and the doubts of these people, because they as we find in the hadith of Hudayfa, du'atun ala abwab jahannam. Right? They are like callers stood at the gates of hellfire. Man ajabahu qadhafuhu fiha. Whoever responds to them, they will throw him therein into the hellfire. So this hadith also indicates that meaning, that we have to take caution and be careful of the various paths and avenues of misguidance. So this brings us to an end of our discussion of this hadith, this tremendous and mighty hadith. This hadith contains the virtue and the excellence of knowledge, and also sticking to correct guidance. The first part mentions Allah intends goodness to a servant. If He intends goodness, He will give him fiqh of the religion. The second part of the hadith, the last part, is speaking about remaining steadfast, right, upon the truth, having istiqamah. Right, so it's a tremendous and mighty hadith, and so inshallah we'll conclude our lesson there today. So this is the end of the first topic. The next topic we'll discuss inshallah ta'ala, the next time we have a lesson, will be on the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. This is an ayah in Surah Al-An'am, and those who believe and do not confuse or mix their belief with oppression. So this ayah, inshallah, we'll discuss in the next lesson from the commentary, from the speech of Shaykh Ubayd, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala. So today we'll end our lesson at this point. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.